Hello and welcome. I'm going to be very simple about this. If you want to become dangerous on the phone, then you're in the right place. This is the exact course that you need to be taking right now. You don't need to go and take any other course because I'm going to give you the real stuff when it comes to being absolutely dangerous, whether you want to book an appointment, whether you want to call somebody and get them to commit to whatever the next step is, whether that be taking their credit card information, then putting down a deposit, no matter what it is that you want them to do. Inside of this course, I'm going to give you the tools, I'm going to give you the skills, and I'm going to give you the necessary mindset shifts and changes that you need to make internally in order for you to absolutely excel. So let's get into it. This course, I call it Cold Calling Mastery. We're going to be talking about how to take a very simple process that I've taught people literally within a day and put them on track to book 3 to 5 appointments with consistency, only having this training and not having any prior sales experience. So you don't have to already be a closer. You don't already have to have sales experience. If you're starting from scratch, then you're in the right place. First of all, I've made this course for B2B founders. Usually that's an agency founder or somebody who's starting their own business. Maybe they got to pick up the phone. Maybe they got to make their own dials. Maybe they are an insurance agent or a real estate agent. No matter what it is, if you have to pick up the phone and talk to strangers, this course will serve you. If you're inside of a B2B agency, you need appointment setters to book appointments. This is for you. If you're an appointment setter yourself, obviously, this is going to give you the skills you need. If you're a closer who has to pick up the phone from time to build their pipeline, you are in the right place. Now, let's go over what we're going to cover in this course. So we're going to go through a number of things. For the first module, we're going to work on building instant credibility. Why is that important? Because you need to be credible. The more authority they believe you have, the more they'll want to talk to you. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about how to be able to upgrade your identity very quickly. Literally within the matter of minutes, you will be able to upgrade your identity. In addition to that, you're not really in sales. Talk about the psychology that you need to adopt. Credibility killers, weak phrases. We're going to talk about how to install the high status framework immediately. In module 2, we're going to go over mindset. There's a fear that comes with cold calling. Even if you don't want to admit it, it is there, and it is even there for people who are at the top levels, at the top of the game. You got to know how to deal with the fear. And the best way to deal with the fear is by understanding it. So we're going to go into that. The next thing is us over them, really. We're more important than them. We ain't got time for that. And you're doing them a favor. So we're going to go in depth about all of these and you'll come to understand exactly what I mean. Next thing is we're going to talk about consumer psychology or customer psychology. How to pique curiosity and maintain curiosity, because curiosity killed the cat, but curiosity also closed the. So we want to talk about maintaining that curiosity throughout the call. We're going to talk about the 3 essentials, really, which are the 3 essential things that need to happen in order for somebody to be intrigued enough to allow you to persuade them. And then peer recommendation, we'll talk about what that means exactly. In module 4, we're going to talk about the anatomy of a successful call. Ball of yes, F their day, big idea and big result, using Trojan horse questions, using takeaways, and how to be able to agree on time. Next, in module 5, most people are always wondering, what if they say this or what if they say that? We're going to go through those because it's really only a few of them. And if you set up the call the right way, they really won't ask too many questions other than, is the calendar invite going to be sent to my inbox? Or are you going to send the invoice to my inbox? Those are the only questions they'll be asking. But if they ask you others, we're going to make sure that you prepare with who you are, how to deal with gatekeepers, how to deal when they say, oh, that person's out of the office, or they say, send me an email, they try to brush you off, and how to be able to agree on time. What's the proper way of being able to do that so you can get the appointment booked? Next, we're going to talk about mastering delivery and how to use your voice. We're going to talk about smiling only when they earn it. You'll understand what that means, and neutrality over neediness. So at this point, you probably have a question like, who is this guy? Where did he learn this stuff? And why does it actually work? And you're probably also asking yourself, is this BS? Is it Mickey Mouse, what he's talking about? Is it hypothetical? Does he actually have the experience? So my name is Angelo Vegas. And let's talk a little bit about my story. My story is a real story. So let's talk about it. I didn't start off as a closer. I didn't start off even in sales. I was a guy who was trying to build his own social media marketing agency, really more like a digital marketing agency, really more whatever somebody would pay me to do that I could collect that money and use it to pay my rent. That's what basically my business model was. And I had quit my job. I had no idea of how to generate leads. I have, at that time, 2 kids and a wife to support. And I knew that I had exhausted my family and friends network. And I'm like, I'm going to have to cold call people because that's the only thing I know that could potentially work. So I knew nothing. And I actually ended up going completely belly up and broke and damn near ruining my life trying to do that business. And I just had to get real with myself in a dark night of the soul. If you really want to do this entrepreneur thing, then you're going to have to start gaining some of these skills. And I had disadvantages. I went to college, but I didn't have a college degree. So nobody was going to hire me in some nice corporate job. My mindset was I'm going to just have to find a way to earn it on my own. So one of the first things I did was I took a cold calling job for a body shop where I would have to call people based on the police reports that were submitted that they got into a car accident. And I would have to convince them to tow their car to our body shop. And for every car that I could get towed to the body shop, I would only make $50 commission. I would have to make hundreds of dials a day. I cold called strangers for $50 a sell. Like, it doesn't get any more scrappy than that. And dealing with the general public, what it taught me was how to establish authority fast and how to impulse them into taking action. And then after that, I got into real estate acquisitions, calling people, making offers on their house. What I really felt was the catalyst position was when I got into selling insurance leads, because then I had to not only make 300 phone calls a day, I was on a sales floor where you were expected to close at least 1 sale a day. You were cold calling business owners that never heard of you, never heard of your company. And the expectation was that you had to collect their credit card information right on the phone the first time you called them. So there's a lot of authority, a lot of credibility that has to be established. So many things. And most of those sales would happen between 7 and 12 minutes. And that's when I was like, whoa, this phone thing is completely something else. And then from there, I eventually got into high ticket sales, because from my experience that I had with cold calling was way harder than high ticket sales. So when I got in that, my time on the phone had already made me dangerous. I was out closing guys with bigger resumes. They had a lot of experience. They had all of this high ticket closer, that whole cult of it. They had all of that. But I was just a guy who had actually talked to, at this point, thousands and thousands of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of calls. I had already had that. I was running laps around these guys. After the high ticket closing, I started to get into sales leadership. I realized, like, with everything about marketing, I knew some stuff about tech. I could probably take that and be pretty beneficial to a startup. And I helped the agency grow. They might have been at like 150, almost 200K. And then we took them to $1 million. It only took me 8 months to be able to do that. And that was using a team of Philippine-based appointment setters that I taught this same exact stuff, and I could turn them into an elite level appointment setter. Literally, it would only take me 24 to 48 hours. I would go over this information with them. They'll get on the phone and they'll be killing it. I did it again in a different industry. I put an agency inside of the legal industry, on track to close $5 million in sales from an outbound system that I developed that only took 4 months, and it was all cold calling. So today, what I do is I run my own agency. We train remote sales teams. We handle intake for law firms. We run high performance sales campaigns, and we handle back-end sales automation. So none of the stuff that I'm going to go over in this course is hypothetical. There's nothing that I'm going to talk about that is theory. Every single thing that I'm talking about works across multiple industries, and it has worked. So if you watch this course, it's going to be a game changer. Let's get into it. Okay, module 1, status is credibility. I'm going to repeat that. Status is credibility. It's authority. It's really everything. We're going to learn how to upgrade your identity, which is how you're going to do that very quickly. It's not going to take forever. You're not going to have to listen to subliminal affirmations. You're going to be able to do it quickly. We're going to talk about why you're not really in sales, things that kill your credibility, using weak phrasing, and how to install this high status framework immediately. This will change your life, especially if it's the first time that you heard this. Now, in the animal kingdom, status determines who eats first, who gets protected, and who gets heard. The same is true for humans. Now, and I want you to take a look at this slide here. Look at the guy on the left and look at the people on the right. Who has more credibility? Who has more status? Who would you trust with advice on success? Would you trust the guy on the left, or would you trust the people on the right? Obviously, you would trust the people on the right because they already have the success. However, what you really are respecting is not only their success and not only what they've done, you're respecting truly what their status is. Because the only difference between the people on the left and the people on the right is not money. It's not multi-million-dollar budgets. It is what is going on inside of their head. What is the conversation that they're having with themselves? How do they perceive themselves in the world? How do they believe they should function and live in society? That is ultimately determines who's on the right and who's on the left. So you have access to the same status as these people. And if you take on their identity of status, then what will happen is what is in your world will change. And this is how I would easily upgrade the identity and status of the reps that I would train. So the first thing I would have them do is I would have them close their eyes. And I would tell them, I want you to imagine someone that you view as successful, someone that you perceive to be a winner, someone who's thriving, someone who has all of the success, the accomplishments. Just think of someone that comes to mind. And then what I would ask them to do is I want you to put on that person's identity as if you would put on a shirt. I want you to embody who it is they are. And when I speak to you, I want you to answer as them I want you to speak as them. I want you to take on their thoughts, their viewpoint of the world. I want you to completely allow yourself to become this person. And this is what would happen. So I would ask them firstly, how did you become so confident? And they would answer from the voice of the person. And then I would ask them, what do you think about money? And the responses would be from the perspective of the person. And then I asked them, why is it that you feel like you deserve to be successful? And they would answer, I feel like I deserve to be successful because I've always felt special and all of these things. And their perspective would be so different inside of this identity that they took on. It would be so different than their normal everyday perspective. And the big question that I would ask them is, what's one hard truth that the rep, which is the person that was doing the exercise, what's one hard truth that they need to hear and that they need to accept about themselves in order to be as successful as you? And they would literally say the exact thing that the rep would need to do in order to increase their status immediately. And what this would show me is that the status doesn't require like Lamborghinis and nice watches and like going on vacations here. Like none of that stuff is actually the status. The status is the feeling that is inside of the person about the way they perceive themselves in society. And it also made me realize is that exercise only would take tops 10 minutes to do. But it would show me that, hey, the status is free. They could take on that identity of being more important, of being more successful. They could take on that identity and it would be completely free. Now, what the hell does this have to do with cold calling? Why is this important? Ask yourself, with this successful person, how do they sit in their chair? How do they speak? What type of language do they use? How do they deal with unprofessionalism? How do they deal with disrespect? All of this stuff is going to determine how someone on the phone treats you. If they believe you have high status, they're going to treat you well. If they believe you have low status, they're going to treat you like shit and are not going to listen to anything that you have to say. They're going to blow you off. They're going to miss your appointment, and they're definitely not buying anything from you. So the most important thing we can do is upgrade our identity when it comes to our level of status. That is most important. And in doing that, we have to also understand something very critical about who we are that's going to influence the prospect. Now, this stuff is super important. We're going to get into the tactics. We're going to get into the scripts. We're going to get into what to say, how to say it, all of that. I'm going to tell you that, but it all starts with your identity. You have to understand, you're not a salesperson. You're not a business development rep. You're not a closer. You're a high status individual that has an opportunity for them to do business on a higher level. And when you take on that identity, people will just listen to whatever it is that you have to say. They won't be hanging up on you. They will hear you out. They'll let you pitch just because they are saying to themselves, this is not even a salesperson. This person seems like a high status individual with information and an opportunity for me to do business on a higher level. So the first thing is for you to believe that. Because most salespeople actually come across like this guy here, like a complete bozo. When they get on the phone, they don't speak from a standpoint of confidence. If you were on the phone with someone high status, do you think they're going to say, and then what we do is, you think they're going to say that on the phone? Do you think it would be okay if, do you think it would be okay if we would set an appointment? Do you think that would be okay? Are they going to stutter over their words? Are they going to be stumped when they're asked a question? I can find the information for that. Do they feel like they have to stretch the truth in order to be accepted by the person? Like they have to literally lie. I got to lie to make the sale, which a lot of salespeople do. They just will lie. They don't care. They will lie to make the sale. High status people don't need to lie. They'll tell it to you straight. Hey, we don't do that. And also when it comes to time, do you think that high status person is okay with their time being wasted? Someone can set an appointment with them and not even show up, not even contact them. You think that they're going to be okay with that? Now, before you call that prospect, your cup is full. You have all the status in the world before you call them. The question is, how much water or status, authority or credibility can you maintain throughout the conversation? The more status that you can maintain during the conversation, the more successful you will be. Or you can act like the bozo that I just showed you. Say, ask for permission, all of that low status behavior, lie, be completely stumped when they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. You can do all of that stuff and you're just pouring out your credibility and authority on the call. So this stuff is hyper important. This is why we're starting with it. Status is everything when it comes to sales. If I just come in to the call like I'm an absolute boss, they'll want to do business with me purely because they themselves perceive me as a higher status than them. So that's why we're starting with status. I've showed you how to upgrade your identity. I've showed you the difference between high status and low status and why it's so important for credibility. Next, we're at module 2, which is mindset. We talk about fear, why we're more important than them. It's always us over them. How we really ain't got time for that and what that means. And how we're actually doing them a favor. Now, I have this picture here because this is what most reps actually feel internally before they do a call. And when I would do exercises with my rep where I would say, how do you perceive the person on the other side of the phone? They would literally say, they imagine this big, giant, authoritative business professional or owner or whatever they are on the other side of the phone that is way more important than them. And you notice this guy's phone is still on the hook. The reason why that phone's still on the hook is because he's scared to pick it up. That's why. And these are all of the common fears that people have when it comes to picking up the phone. I've asked my reps explicitly, what is it that you fear? And also from being on the phone for years, what is it that stops you from picking up the phone? And these are some of the things that come up. They'll hang up on me. I won't know what to say. They'll ask me a question I don't know the answer to. I'll look stupid. It'll be embarrassing. I'll say something wrong. There's some more. They're more important than me. They're bigger than me. I'm not as smart as them. Now, we have to realize that we're calling them because we have the ability to transform their lives. We have the information. They don't. We have the keys. They don't. We have the answers. They don't. And this is why it's important to sell a product that you believe in, a product that's truly transformational. Because when you do, you already know, oh, I know things that they don't know. I got access to results that they won't be able to get on their own. And I know that I have answers to questions that they've been asking for years. And if they had all of this stuff, they'd already be way more successful than they are. They'd already be our customer. You have to realize most business owners don't know what way is up. Most business owners are living quiet lives of desperation, and you'll be blown away by the number of businesses that are out there fumbling in the dark. How much money they spent on marketing campaigns that didn't work, how much money they spent on technology and software that they never used, how much money they spent on employees that stole all of the money of the business. They are making bad decisions every single day, decisions that cost them money. Many of them have no idea for the economic longevity of the business. Most of them are fumbling in the dark and looking for a high status individual with an opportunity to put them on the right track. And that's when we show up and turn the lights back on, because they actually need us. They need us. They need us. And when you can see the prospect for who they truly are, you'll no longer fear the phone. When you realize that I'm just calling a bunch of people that are fumbling around in the dark, that don't have the information that I have, that don't have access to the type of results that my service is able to attain. When you realize that, they're no longer the big scary ogre and business person on the other side of the phone that's so savvy. Most of that stuff is just them projecting a facade. And then you multiply that by the fact that there's literally thousands of those people with the same issue. You'll quickly realize that you don't have time to play games. You're a high status individual with an opportunity to absolutely transform their lives. Do you have time for somebody to miss your appointment? Do you have time to talk to somebody who doesn't even have the money to afford your service? Do you have time to pursue any lead that is not giving you the level of respect that you require? You don't have time for any of that. And the reason is because there's literally thousands of people that are fumbling around in the dark waiting for you to come and turn the light switch on. When you're on the phone and you're making those calls, there's some people that are going to do this. And there's some people who are completely fine fumbling around in the dark. And you ain't got time for that. Next, on to the next one. When you pick up the phone and you call them and you make them aware that there is a transformation and that there is the opportunity for them to change their lives, that is even available, you're doing them a favor. So now we know we're high status. Now we see the prospect for who they truly are. And now we understand what our time is worth. We got all the ingredients. Now we're going to talk about how we maintain this on the phone and get the prospect absolutely interested. See you in the next module. So we're at module 3. That's customer psychology. And what you're going to learn is curiosity, how we maintain curiosity, what's actually the formula for curiosity. We're going to go over what the 3 essentials are that you have to support that curiosity, but also keep that person primed on the phone and in the understanding that what you're bringing them is completely unlike anything they've ever had access to. And then we're also going to go over peer recommendation and what that means. So let's dive in. So this is you up in the top left corner. And this unicorn is your curiously intriguing unicorn-like opportunity with the potential for a definitive transformation to the world. This is what your product or service is. And you're riding that product or service and completely controlling it, right? And this is the prospect. So when this opportunity is so intriguing, makes them so curious, sounds so different than anything that they've heard before, the only thing that's left in the way is it real. And because of your status, because of your authority, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to be like, this is a high status individual with the opportunity to absolutely transform my lives. Of course it's real. So it's a little bit of a funny photo, but I wanted something that would really stick in your head. So when you get on the phone with a prospect, they're like, this is something that I've been waiting for so long, but I've never seen. And I want to know, is it real? All right. So how do we make the opportunity that intriguing? How do we make it resonate like that? The first thing we have to do is we have to say something that they never heard before. The next thing is we have to contradict the norm. The third thing is we have to keep the loop open. So the first thing is gap in knowledge. This is saying something that they've never heard before, right? And this is how we say it on the phone. Jane, we stumbled on a way to double your sales in less than 2 weeks. What we've discovered is that most businesses aren't even aware of the fact that they can blank. What our research shows us is that if you do this and this is your ROI. So these are all subtle ways to present the fact that you have something that they never heard before. We stumbled on a way to result. We discovered that most businesses aren't aware of results. And what our research shows us is that most businesses aren't able to blank, or you can mix them all together. What we discover is that most businesses aren't aware of the opportunity on Meta right now. And our research shows us that only 6% of businesses are even implementing ad strategies like this. And what we've done is we've stumbled on a way to guarantee you a 10x ROI in less than 30 days. When you say that to somebody, they're like, wait, what's going on? You guys stumbled on this and you figured all of this out? This is how we present a gap in knowledge. And this is how we show them that we're the authority and we have information that they've never even heard of. The next thing is we have to contradict the norm. So everyone, if you call somebody and you tell them we get you more customers by SEO, everyone has heard that, right? What if I told them we do this without any digital advertising? They're like, wait, how do you do that? We do this without any need for SEO. They're like, oh, wow. We do this without you having to spend a dime on ad spend. So we got to contradict the norm. We got to take something that's normal for the industry and we have to contradict it. Prime example, let's say like let's say you have a dentist who wants more teeth whitening clients. We're able to do this without them ever coming into the office. What? A dentist is, wait, you can do this without the person even coming into the office for the cleaning? Yeah. Yeah, we can get them to pay without ever even meeting you. We do this without them even needing to meet you. So you have to find the things in your offer where you can say this. Another thing is, when we discovered that we could get these results, we were surprised to see that we didn't even need to send someone into the door to meet the doctor, that they would willingly pay or give their insurance information without ever meeting the doctor. We were surprised to see that we didn't even need. Another example, everyone else sends people into your door. What our highest performers actually do instead is do these consultations without the person ever coming into the office, right? Or everyone else spends a ton of money on Meta. Our highest performers actually use TikTok instead. So we got to contradict the norm. These are things that keep their curiosity high on the phone. And they're like, wow, this is something that I never heard before. Remember that unicorn? The offer has to sound like something that they've never heard. And then the third thing is opening the loop. So really what that is, just telling an open-ended story, right? That telling an open-ended story, or giving them a flash of what the results can be without going completely in depth. So they're pondering on it as you have the conversation. So saying something like 99% of businesses overlook what we're doing until you know what happens. And in their mind, they're like, wait, what is you know what? You know what? What do you mean? And you just leave it open-ended and they'll literally be intrigued. 99% of businesses overlook this method until you know what happens. And they're like, what? Wait, what's going to happen if I overlook this, right? It sounds completely backwards, but we couldn't ignore it. They're like, wait, the method that we've come up with to bring in these clients, it sounds completely backwards, but we couldn't ignore it. They're like, wait, what is that? We always want them to be putting their ear in to hear more of why it works. Another one, we did this, but we never expected this level of results. Wait, you guys did what? You guys did what? So if I tell them, I have a way for you to be able to double your sales in the next 30 days. And then I say, we came up with a method to be able to double the sales of an organization, and it only took us 30 days. And we did this, but we never expected this level of results. Or we took on a completely new approach to be able to double the sales in 30 days. And we did it, but we never expected this level of results. People are like, wait, what is that? What did you do? What did you do? What happened? This is how we keep curiosity on the call and open the loop. And remember again, I want you to embed this odd photo, take a screenshot of it. That's you on the phone, deal making. And this is your offer. It's a curiously intriguing unicorn-like opportunity with the potential for a definitive transformation to the, because that's what we're selling. We're not selling a product or a service. We're selling a transformation. You were here before, now you're here. We're selling a transformation. And they're thinking in their mind, is it real? Is it real? And we're saying all of this stuff. We have to approach it with, it's no big deal energy, right? when we're saying these things to the prospect about what our opportunity is, it can't be, I guarantee you, this is going to change it can't be that energy. That's really not the type of energy. The energy has to be actually very nonchalant. It has to sound a little bit like this. John, we did this. We implemented this in a business, and we had no idea that they would experience a 4 times ROI on ad spend, literally the first day that their ads were launched live. We didn't expect that. Do you see the tone in which I'm explaining it? It's really no big deal. Something that we do every day. Either you do it or you don't do it. I don't need you. I'm going to talk to 20 other people today that are all going to do this. It's going to be very reasonable for them. They're open to the transformation. If you're open to the transformation as well, then now is the right time to secure your spot. So you got to talk to them very different, very grounded. It's really not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. That's the energy we want to embody. It's not a big deal. This is something that we do every day. And that's the perfect segue into adopting a recommendation frame for them. So now that we told them something that they never heard of before, we've opened the loop for them to be extremely intrigued, and we told them something that was outside of the norm. And we've done all of this with this nonchalant, really, it's not a big deal energy. Now, when we make a recommendation to them, we're not really selling them. Now we can really take them by the hand. And we're going to talk about script-based language in the next module, but we can say things to them like, John, based on what you've said, I don't know what your goals are right now, but it sounds like it might be in your best interest. Do you have a pen and paper handy? Okay. Write down 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. Saturday. Which of those times do you have available? Which one looks good for you? This is the module that everyone's waiting for. What does the call sound like? How should a call sound? So we're going to go over what the anatomy of a successful call is. And I broke it down in a few different parts. Every call is different by industry. But what I like to do is really formalize a script. So we're going to go over some scripts here. I'll have some definitive scripts that would be available for download. But I'm going to go over what is the anatomy of a successful call. So you can take these pieces throughout this and you can craft it for your offer, because only you know what your unique selling proposition is and all of those things. But we're going to get into this, and this is the module that you're going to come back to this again and again. And this is the one that everybody wants to hear. So let's go ahead and dive into the anatomy of a call. So first things first, I know everyone's going to be like, but my offer is different. My service is different. We do something that's hard to explain. I got you. This is how I frame the value proposition. This is a very quick and simple and easy formula I use to frame the value proposition. So what I say is, we help blank is whatever the niche, whether that be law firms, that could be gyms, that could be tree removal companies, that could be social media influencers, that could be car lots, whatever it is. We help them grow as far as whatever their desired result is. So we help, let's say, car manufacturers grow as far as streamlining their production goes. Now, there's a reason why I say it like this, because on the phone, when you initially say your value proposition, you want it to be something that is liked. And people like things that rhyme. So I'll give you another example. We help gyms grow as far as getting long-term members goes. So we take the niche and we say what they want, but we just put grow and goes on them because everybody wants to grow their business. And then we're talking about specifically who it is we're zoning in. And we're really zoning in on helping blank. So that could be gyms in Massachusetts. That could be Ford dealerships. You want to be hyper specific. You want to hyper specify the niche. And we're really zoning in on helping them to get resolved, right? So we're really zoning in on helping Ford dealerships sell more cars in the next 30 days without the headache of dealing with multiple finance companies, because we've successfully helped over 15 Ford dealerships close over $20 million in business in 2025. You see what I did there? We help blank, which is the industry, grow as far as whatever the desired result is they're looking for goes. And we're really zoning in on helping hyper specify the specific people. So that could be like general managers of bakeries. We're really zoning in on helping general managers of bakeries to have more availability in their employee scheduling in less than 30 days. So we have to give them a time frame. Okay. So we're zoning in on helping hyper specify niche to get whatever the ROI is in a time frame. And that's without the headache of whatever they have a lot of headache with, adding more software, without the headache of spending more on payroll, whatever it is, without the headache of blank, because we successfully, and then case study. So whatever the biggest thing you did, you got a client that you got crazy results for. You got an e-com company, you ran ads for them, you got them $30 million in sales because we've successfully helped a feminine product brand gain over $30 million in sales in the last 30 days. I'd like to ask, right? And then you can go into questioning. But this will help you formulate whatever your unique selling proposition is, and you're going to see where this fits into the overall script. So I hope that made sense for you. Take a screenshot of this. This formula works. It works. I've never seen it not work, and I've done it for multiple industries. It just works. Okay. Now, next, we're talking about the beginning of the call. The reason why I put that value proposition there first is because I want you to already have that set up before we start getting into how you start the call, where the value proposition is going to go, how are you going to question. So now we're going to talk about the beginning of the call. You see this ball here? You see the word yes? The reason why I chose yarn is because yarn, you have to continue to spin it and spin it, and then it becomes this big ball. Literally wrap by wrap. The more you wrap it, the bigger the ball becomes. So what we want to do on the call is we want to make the beginning of the call a big ball of yes. We just want to keep on wrapping more yeses, more yeses. And why? Because we don't want them to say no. Because the more they say yes, the more it's going to bypass that logical part of the brain and start making them engage with you subconsciously, and is going to keep them on the phone for longer. So this is how we make the call a big ball of yes. Is this John's garage? They're going to say yes, right? You can ask them a question that you already know the answer is a yes. Do you fix Hondas? Yes. And then you say, yes, this is such and such from blank, whatever your company is. Can you hear me good? They're going to say yes again. And then you're going to say, yes, my name is such and such. We help blank to blank by blank, whatever your big idea is. But we're making the beginning of the call a giant ball of yes. We're trying to get as many yeses as we can. Don't overthink this. Very simple formula. Very simple formula. The whole purpose is getting them to comply. Next, this is permission to qualify. I put this slide here because you can ask for permission to qualify. Most of the time when I train reps, I tell them that they don't have to ask for permission to qualify. It's something you could do if you feel like you want to. And simply the way that permission to qualify looks is after you get them through all those yeses and go to your value proposition, instead of asking them, can you take on more clients? You can say, I wanted to see if you had 60 seconds to hear what we got going on. But to be honest, I would say most of my cold calls, I'd never asked for permission to qualify, but it is something that I know for a fact works and I've done. Right. Right. So this is the big part. We got to get to the Trojan horse question, right? You probably haven't heard this before, but what is a Trojan horse question? We need to ask them a question after we tell them what our value proposition is. We need to ask them a question that's going to make them talk. It's going to confirm that our value proposition is enough for them to further engage. And this is going to also increase our likelihood of setting the appointment or whatever the outcome we're looking for by 70%. So if I can get through my big ball of yeses, I can give them our big idea, big result, and then I can ask them this question instantly. If they answer this question, oh, you're like home free. You're home free. You gotta like jab and then boom, hit them with this question. As soon as you hit them with this question, if they answer it, they're yours. They're yours, right? They're gonna tell you exactly what you need and they're gonna be open to engage and have a conversation, okay? So those are the benefits of this question. But I'm gonna tell you exactly what this question looks like and examples of it. So a Trojan horse question is a question they can't say no to. It can't be a question where you ask them and they'd be like, no, they can't do that. The question is best if it can't be answered with one word. We don't want it to just be a question they can answer yes to either. We have to already know the answer to the question or the potential answer to the question. We have to have an idea of it. It has to make them talk about themselves. And then it's going to almost sound like a qualifying question. And this is an example of a question. I go through my pitch, big ball of yeses. Is this such and such? Do you guys offer such and such? Yes, this is Angela from such and such. We help blank to blank by blank. I hit them with a question and I could say, how do people usually hear about you before they come in? Or you can ask them a question, what type of people usually come in for your services? Or you can say, I noticed there's a lot of massage places near you. What makes people usually choose you over the others nearby? And they'll feel a necessity to answer that question. Or what do people say they love most about your place once they've joined? I'm asking this Trojan horse question as soon as I'm done with my pitch. This is a really powerful question. You can craft your own question like this. And you can experiment with different questions because you'll get different responses. But the whole point is just to make them talk. Now, once you get them talking, once they answer that question, you literally have two options at this point. They're so primed and so engaged, you can continue qualifying them. You can continue asking them other qualifying questions. You can do that by all means, right? But in most cases, you could literally set the appointment right then. Once they answer that question and once they engage, I'm going to show you how to lead them into the next step. And you can literally just book the appointment right there. And this is what that looks like. You ask them the Trojan horse question. They answer the Trojan horse question. And you literally say, I don't know if you're exploring alternative ways to get long-term members right now, but our approach is a bit different than the norm. And I can see based on what you mentioned that it'd be worthwhile to set aside 15 minutes for you to get your eyes on this. I have a 2 p.m. and a 4 p.m. available, which works best. And boom, that's the appointment right there. And it's a slight push away. I don't know if you're exploring alternative ways to whatever the result is they're looking for right now, but our approach is very different than the norm. I can see, based on what you mentioned, it might be worthwhile to set aside 15 minutes for you to get your eyes on this. I have a 2 p.m. and a 4 p.m. available, which works best. Just still no big deal energy. So you can go right to setting the appointment there, just like that. Another way I do that is, okay, thank you for that. John, this is just a quick call to meet you. I don't want to go too in depth about how our full program works, but I do think it'd be worthwhile to organize a more convenient time to learn more about your operation to determine if this is something that makes sense for the both of us. I have a 4 p.m. and a 2 p.m. available, which works best. Right? So you literally push them away. They give you all this information. They open themselves up to you in just real high status. You almost are telling them, yeah, dude, you talk too much. You could take only this and go out and book appointments. Okay. But we're going to go into the next module because I know you're already asking. I know you want to overcomplicate this. They're asking, what if they say this? Or what if they say this? What am I going to? So we're going to do all that too. Now, this module 5 is, but what if they say? Now, I've given you every single thing that you already need to book an appointment successfully, to persuade successfully on the phone. You have every single thing you need, but they may ask more questions on the call. Honestly, if you do the script the way that I went over it, if you follow every single thing before this, they won't even ask you questions. A lot of the time, they'll allow you to book the appointment with minimal information because they have so much intrigue that they just rather figure out what's going on the next call. However, if they do ask you, you'll have tools, you'll have what it is that you need to say to take back control of the call. One thing I want you to remember is the person who asked the questions has the control. So what we want to do is we want to maintain control on the call, and this is how we do it. So there's a few things that you're going to learn, what we're going to cover. They may ask you, tell me more about you guys. Who are you? That's a buying signal. That is a signal that they're intrigued. So we're going to go over exactly what to say. The next thing is gatekeepers, how to deal with them, what to say to them to get past them to the person that you want to talk to. Next thing is people say, oh, that person's out of office. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say to get that person on the phone with you. Then another one, it's more of a blow off. Hey, just go ahead and send me an email. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say for that and how to agree on time, get them locked in on a time that they're going to actually show up. Because you can book 1 million appointments, but if no one shows up, it doesn't matter. So let's go into it. First, let's talk about gatekeepers before we get to some of the other things. When you get on the phone with a gatekeeper, there's a few things that you can do in order to establish control. So the second that they ask you, who is this again? What I want you to do is spell your name. This sounds ridiculous, but it works. So when they say, who is this again? I want you to literally spell either your name or the name of the company. This is Angelo, that's Angelo. This is Jane, that's Jane. And what this will do is this will pattern interrupt them, confuse them a little bit so you can take back control of the call. So you're going to spell your name. And then the next thing you're going to say is, I'm actually looking for a little bit of help, please. And they go, oh, what do you need help with? Let them respond. And you're going to say, I'm going to be speaking with the person who's responsible for handling blank. So that could be the person that's responsible for handling their AI technologies. That could be the person that's responsible for handling their payroll. That could be the person that's responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the office. You're going to say, I'm going to be speaking with the person responsible for blank. They're going to tell you who that is. Or you can say, I need a couple of minutes to go over a matter with them. Would that be you? And they'll say, oh, no, that's not me. That would actually be John or Joe, or that would be Katie in the office. They're going to tell you exactly who you need to speak with. So don't overcomplicate this. Let's say they say, Jane's not in the office right now. What I want you to do is I want you to ask them a very explicit question. If I needed to speak with John today, what would you recommend I do today? And a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, he comes back after 2. He usually comes back into the office after lunch. Actually, you would have to probably send him an email first to get on his calendar. They're going to tell you exactly what to do. Now, there's something that I didn't add in here, but once they tell you exactly what to do, not only do I want you to do it, what I want you to tell them is, what's your name again? Because you've been such a tremendous help. And they're going to say, oh, thank you so much. My name is Kate. You're going to use their name. So when you write that email and you write that email to John, you can say, I spoke with Kate today. And you're going to say something positive about Kate. I spoke with Kate today. She was super helpful. So now what it makes is it makes you go from being somebody who's a complete stranger to somebody who knows who's in their organization already. You're more familiar, more warm. Let's say hypothetically you call back and John answers the phone. You can mention Kate again to refamiliarize yourself with the organization. Hey, John, I spoke with Kate earlier. Just want to say she was absolutely helpful. My name is blank with blank. We help blank to blank by blank. You can go right into the script. You can still make it a big ball of yeses. Next, I'm going to give you a formula for when they ask, who are you? Or give me more information about you guys. Or tell me a little bit more about you. What I want you to do again is a pattern interrupt. Again, I want you to spell your name. My name is Angelo, and I'm calling with AI Tech Solutions. That's AITECHSOLUTIONS. And what this does is this allows you an opening to continue to persuade and continue to talk and continue to engage. And what I want you to say is, we work with blank. So that could be whatever the niche is. We work with chiropractors. And then you're going to tell them, and they trust us because we got really good at blank. And I could be really good at getting them more clients. We got really good at getting more signed contracts. We got really good at implementing solutions that lower their waste by 80%. Whatever it may be, you're going to tell them, and we got really good at. And then you're going to allude to the person behind the curtain, right? And a lot of the time I would just use the CEO. I said, we use the same system our CEO used to achieve blank result. And that's just a testimonial. So whatever it is, a 400% ROI on ad spend, whatever that is, add a little testimonial there. And then we're going to say, and word spread. And now we've gotten really good at getting whatever the results are for hundreds of accounts. So I don't know your situation, but if you are open to exploring alternative methods to be able to grow your client base, I have a 6 and a 7 p.m. available, which works best. We literally just looped back into the appointment setting part. Now I want you to notice something about this. The reason why this works is because it's just a story. You're literally giving them a story, and they attach and they'll latch on to that story that you're telling them. So this is all you have to say when it comes to who are you. That's all you got to say. Use the formula, make it your own. Now, if they say John's out of office, we already went over this, but it's really simple. And we're asking them, if you had to speak with John today, what would you recommend I do today? And they'll tell you, oh, I recommend you give them a call after 4. They're going to tell you what to do. Just do it. Just ask them explicitly. Now, The next one, which is probably one that you hear. Let's say you pitch the gatekeeper. You get through the big ball of yes. You're trying to qualify them. You let them know what your value proposition is. And they're like, just go ahead and send me an email. What's happening is they're actually intrigued. They just don't believe what you're saying is all the way true. But we can't just let them off the phone. So this is what we're going to say. Where do I send the email? Where do I send it to? And they're going to spell out their email address. And then you're going to say, perfect, I just sent it. So it's really simple. Write down their email address. If you're using a CRM, have a template ready that you just send them instantly. A brief overview. Already have a brief overview template already set up. Send me an email. Oh, okay, where do I send it to? They tell you the email address. Perfect, I just sent the information. Let's go ahead and set aside 10 minutes or so in the next 24 to 48 hours to go over what I sent you or to go over it. Can you receive the calendar invite at the same email address? And they'll be like, yeah, I can receive the calendar invite. Or you can ask, can you receive a calendar invite at this email address? And they'll be like, yeah, I can. Okay, I have a 4 p.m. and a 8 p.m. available, which works best. Very simple. That's how you wrote them in. Next, agreeing on time. This is just a general principle. Never give the prospects more than 2 options for a potential time. Never give them 2, or more, never give them more than 2. I have a Monday available and a Wednesday available. Which works best? Monday. Okay, on Monday I have mornings and evenings available. Which works best? Evenings. Okay, in the evening I have a 4 p.m. and an 8 p.m. available. Which works best? The 4 p.m. Okay, perfect. Only give them 2 times. I hear a lot of reps be like, okay, I have the 14th at 3 p.m. I got the 15th at 8 p.m. I got the 16th. You're giving them too many options. We don't want to give them all those options. We only want to give them 2 options. And what I've seen work the best is not even specifying the date. I have today at this time and this time, because the best time to book the appointment is today. That's the best time to book it. The next best time is tomorrow. The worst time is 2 days from now. If you book that appointment longer than 72 hours out, like it's pretty much going to get lost in the sauce. So try to book your appointment same day. Second best, 24 hours. Third best, 48 hours. If you got to book it 72 hours out, then you got to ask them the question that I said before. Would there be anything that would get in the way of you being able to attend this appointment? There wouldn't be any reason you'd miss that time. This is a tie-down question that lets them know that you're serious. Most reps won't answer this question or won't ask this question. They'll just set the time and they'll be like, okay, I sent over the invite, because they're so nervous. They feel like they have to jump off the phone once they got the appointment. If the person has agreed to the time, then let's do ourselves the courtesy of respecting our status enough to say there wouldn't be any reason why you missed that time. And they're not offended by that question. They'll say, no, there wouldn't be any reason. Okay, perfect. And then go ahead and get the appointment locked in. We're at the last module 6. If you've made it all the way to this point, you got the sauce. It's on. It is on. It's on. Whatever reason why you're watching this course, whatever you were hoping to achieve, whatever it is that you were hoping to get out of it, whatever result you were hoping to see manifest inside of your pipeline, inside of the number of appointments you book, inside of your ability to cold call, you got every single thing you need to be an absolute killer on the phone. And this is really an add-on module because I just want to speak to something that I see with reps. So this is what we're going to learn. We are monotone until we only smile when they earn it, and we choose neutrality over neediness. Now, the question is, who would you buy from? This super excited guy that is on the left, or would you buy from this guy that's on the right? If you chose the guy on the right, then you actually understand the psychology of the customer. And I'm going to tell you why. That's super excited. Oh, I'm so great. I'm so glad that we got you on the phone. We're going to talk. All of that excitement like that in the mind of the prospect, it has become synonymous with someone who is not telling the truth. It's become synonymous with somebody who is trying to sell them something. It's very infomercial. There's a time and a place for that type of pitching. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to like front of the room presentation and stuff like that, that could work. But when we're on the phone, we don't need all of that super hyper energy. The first thing is it just comes across as needy. The next thing is it comes across as a desire to be liked. Like the more that you do to be liked, the lower your status is. And that goes for everything in life. Number 3. Successful people aren't on 10 like that all the time. They're not always, yeah, just gotta go. They're not like that at all. They don't even like being around people whose energy is like that. That's very frantic energy, and it feels very unsafe to a person that's actually successful. Number 4, like I said, it's those used car salesman vibes. That's not the vibe we're trying to give off here. And number 5, it's actually extremely hard to replicate that level of energy. And that actually leads to salespeople becoming burnt out because they're trying to manufacture this over exerted energy all the time. The big deals that are made, that's not the energy in the room. It's very grounded. It's very cerebral. And it's much like contestant number 2. Number 1 is grounded. Number 2, it's neutral. Number 3, it's communicating to the client that we are experienced. Number 4 is showing that we've seen success before. We've experienced success. That's why we are so authoritative in our status. Number 5, it shows the prospect, I'm not really here to sell you anything. I'm here to offer you the key to transforming your circumstances. That's why I'm here. So I want you to take on this grounded approach. A grounded approach, a neutral approach, a very experienced approach, an approach that you've experienced success. That's the way that I talk on the phone. Even the way that I'm talking in this presentation is more energy than I actually use on the phone. When I'm on the phone, it's very cerebral, very clear, no word wasted, use of silence, very neutral, very experienced, using my listening and just showing I'm really not here to sell you anything. However, there are other opportunities out there that you may not be aware of. That's the energy we're bringing to the call. Because that energy goes from that big ball of chaos that I showed you to this, a straight line. It just feels, it feels right. That's it. So let's add a few things on top of that. We can use pattern interrupts using this neutral tone as well. And what's so interesting about these pattern interrupts is it's going to really make you stand out when you deliver them with a complete neutral tone. Is going to throw them off and they're going to perceive your status as higher. It's going to confuse them a little bit, and make them actually listen to you more. So if you've pitched them the whole time, you use your authority, you use your status, you use your Trojan horse questions, you understand what they want, you got your offer, you're positioning it in the right way, you're using this experience-based storytelling to communicate who you are. And then you say something along the lines of, honestly, the only reason someone would say no to this is if they have a phobia to growth. They're like on eggshells. And when you have them on eggshells and you interrupt their pattern, like that's how you take control and become an authority of their world. Make the recommendation. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's get you set up with a time. My growth manager is available tomorrow at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Which works best? Right? So we got to hit them with that jab, which is a pattern interrupt in order to disturb them. And then we can take control. Here's another example. Really, John, based on what you've said, the only thing that's standing between you and success right now is the decision to move forward. That's really the only thing in the way. Another example. Based on some of the questions that you're asking me, I'm really catching that you're waiting for the perfect moment. I'm catching waiting for the perfect moment vibes. Is that what's at play here? A salesperson would never say this to them. They don't have the balls to say this to them because they're scared they're going to hang up or they're going to piss them off. And when you say these type of things and you interrupt their pattern using that neutral tonality, they're going to listen up and they're going to be like, I don't know if these guys can deliver half of what they said, but I'm willing to find out. That's module 6. And I want you to remember, anchor the mindset, the mechanics will follow. You don't have to know how to say everything perfectly, but if you anchor that mindset and you anchor the status, all of the mechanics, they're just going to follow and fall into place. So, congratulations. You've completed cold calling mastery. I hope that you've been taking notes, that you've derived a great benefit from this course because you got it for free. Use it. If there's something you don't understand, go back to it. Use this stuff, use this stuff, use this stuff. Now, if you want the exact scripts that I use to get appointments on my calendar that led to $30,000 as well as $40,000 offers being sold, there is a link below this video right now in the description section. I'm going to only release a few copies of this. I'm thinking about only 100 copies. This can get you not only booked meetings, but get people super primed to buy, increase your authority and status, and make the client feel like you are unlike any other thing. When you can do that, it's going to lead them to schedule an appointment with you where you're able to pitch, whether that be a Zoom meeting, whether that be getting them on the phone for official discovery call. This is going to put them in the frame to be open to purchasing a high ticket package, even if you're talking about a retainer-based service where your price may be $1,000 or $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, or if you're selling them a large transformation-based package. This is going to be the segue for you to get the appointment booked, get them primed to buy, and get them to the next step in your sales process. So once again, that link is in the description of this video. Go grab it. It says here what you're going to get. I'm going to give you the word for word scripts. I'm going to give you voice recordings of how they are to be delivered and those objection killer phrases that work every time. See you in the next video, and let's have a big day.